I actually only have 3 books, so just 3 books, but you'll see these are some pretty thick books. So, the first one here is the Wolverine Omnibus, Volume 2. So I read Volume 1 last year and really enjoyed it. Volume 2, on the other hand, I did not enjoy nearly as much. It was tough to get through. It just wasn't very exciting. I love Wolverine. He's one of my favorite comic book characters of all time. But this was just a tough set of stories. They just weren't the best, in my opinion. I could see why this is rated so low on Goodreads. I was a little concerned when I saw it was one of the lowest rated books I had on my Goodreads. I could see why. It was tough to get through. It just wasn't the best Wolverine stories. There was just a lot of Madripoor and a lot of those weird Marvel, what are they called? Marvel Presents? Yeah. Marvel Presents 38 through 71. That's a lot. And those are like 4-page issues. It just didn't really do it for me. That's a shame. I actually already have Wolverine Volume 3, and I've heard that one is really good and really picks up from Volume 2. So I'm still excited to get into Volume 3 and see what that's all about. I think Volume 2 just kind of hit in a weird spot where it's like late 80s, early 90s, and it just wasn't the best stories. But, and I didn't do this on purpose, a few months back, I read Infinite Crisis. It's actually right past the frame here. You can't see it. And I've been trying to read all of the DC books in chronological order, sort of. Like I read Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then I read Infinite Crisis. And this also takes place right around that time of Infinite Crisis. Gotham Central. Man. This was a big change from Wolverine Volume 2. This book was incredible. I never wanted to stop reading it. I never wanted to put it down. I was always excited when I put it on my lap and cracked it open. It's even bigger than Wolverine, I think. They're about the same size. Didn't feel like it. I blew through this book in like 2 days, maybe 3 days total. This was just completely absorbing. Like it's like a crime drama, and I was into it, man. I was so into it. I cared so much about these characters as we went on. I think a lot of that has to do with the writers. Ed Brubaker, Greg Rucka. Man, Ed Brubaker, he is probably my favorite comic writer that there is. I mean, he just always nails it. Something about his writing just does it for me. Man, every one of his books I've ever read is awesome. I love Criminal, Reckless, his Captain America, and there's got to be some other stuff by him I've read as well. And here's another one, Gotham Central. This was awesome. I never wanted to stop reading it. It doesn't really have Batman in it at all, just like a couple issues really. But it's got a lot of the Batman's Rogues gallery, and it's just the cops of Gotham PD and how they deal with the rogues of Batman, like Mr. Freeze and Two-Face and the Mad Hatter and Catwoman, and it's just like how they deal with it is a lot different than the way Batman deals with it. And the Joker's in here, and yeah, there's several other ones. It starts off with Mr. Freeze. The very first issue is Mr. Freeze using his freeze gun to freeze a cop, and then pushes him and he shatters. And it's like, in a Batman comic, that's just something you see, and then Batman chases him, kicks his ass, and then he gets thrown in Arkham Asylum until he escapes again, you know? But in this book, you get to see how messed up the rest of the force is over the death, and how they're going to try to, they don't want Batman's help. They want to deal with it themselves. They lost one of their fellow officers, you know? If you like Renee Montoya, this is where all that comes from. So I think following this is the 52. So not the new 52, but the series is just called 52. I started reading it digitally, and I think it picks up a little bit from where this left off. So, man, this was awesome. If you want to read a really good comic, this is it. You can still get this book. You can still go get it on a discount, in stock trades, organic price books. Just don't order it from Amazon because they'll send it to you all beat up. But definitely go buy it. You can't go wrong with this one. The last one I have here was just a small book, just to finish off the month. I read this in, I think, 2 days, just two sittings. And it was The Sheriff of Babylon by Tom King. So I've read Tom King's Vision. I read his Miracle Man. I'm sorry, Mr. Miracle. I read Tom King's Batman. See, I really like Tom King. Something about his writing I really like. Last year I read the Tom King Gotham Year One. That was one of my favorite books I read last year. So, you know what? I didn't think I ever did my favorite graphic novels. I really need to do that. That's going to go really highly on the list. Really high on the list. Anyway, Sheriff of Babylon. I didn't like this one as much as Vision or Mr. Miracle, but I did enjoy it. It was more of a crime drama, but this is more about soldiers at war. I can appreciate how horrifying everything is and was over there. And this deals with a lot of that. A lot of the time that took place around 9/11, So some people say this is like his best book. I don't really know why. Maybe someone can explain that to me. I didn't not like it. I really enjoyed the book, but it didn't blow me away the way Vision did. When I read Tom King's Vision, I was like, this is one of the best things I've ever read. So maybe I read this a little too fast. It was, not hard to follow, but it's one of those books where you read it and then you feel like nothing much really happened. So, I don't know. I've also got Tom King's Omega Men, and I'm probably going to hold off and read. I'll probably wait a while before I read that one. But the video is getting on there. I only have these 3 books. Definitely pick up Gotham Central if you've never read it. And let me know what you think about all these books.